Hello, everybody, and welcome back to week 26, the official halfway point of the year, tracking the local shifting market here in Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester counties of southern Jersey for the 900,000 and below homes. Now, we are going to be taking a little bit of a look back at what we had sort of predicted coming into this, in the earlier part of this year, where we are today, and just seeing kind of the averages from the first official 6 months of the year, now that we're at the end of June here, and a little bit of prediction going forward about what do the next 3 to 6 months of the real estate market have in store for us. So, our normal numbers, right, as we've kind of gone over multiple of the weeks, our total active, our new listings, our pendings, our closed, those have actually all stayed fairly constant through the month of June. Not a lot of difference, not a lot of change in those. That all has stayed actually fairly even, which has been nice to see. Okay. Now, the main thing that we've talked about on pretty much every episode of this, all 26 episodes so far this year, price, right? It's the one factor that I think affects the most of us when we think about entering the real estate market, whether as a seller and considering selling our home, as a buyer looking to purchase a home, doesn't matter. Price matters for both of us. Okay. So in the beginning of this year, in that January, February, prices were higher than where they had been in the previous year or two, but they were still fairly modest. They were in a normal rising period. There wasn't all of that shock to see that they had come up ever so slightly off 300,000 up to the 312, 311 that we see here on the red graph. But what really started to get us was we knew interest rates were high, and we thought that was going to spur and slow down all of this buyer spending. But what ended up being true is that once interest rates stopped changing so frequently, once they kind of settled into this new point of where they are in the high sixes, low sevens, and they stayed that way for a little bit of time, buyers came back out. They came back out in droves. But the problem was we didn't have a lot of the sellers that were coming on the market. And so we've talked about that simple supply and demand. Our prices really rose. And you can really see it here. When we talk about this, prices from, we'll call it January, February, were fairly equal, 312,000, 311,000 as a median list price, all the way up to 338, where we were for the average of June. That's about a 9% increase in prices of homes in this first 6 months of the year, right? So since January or February of this year, home prices have risen about 9%, right? So that's a huge jump. And how this affects us as realtors is when we go to look at comparable property sales, we generally go back 6 months, right? Because that's what we're always told. That's how far an appraiser goes back. Well, the thing is, you now have to look back at when that home sold and then apply the percentage increase that has happened across the market since then to really try and get an accurate gauge of where prices are. So that's been a big challenge because as we go to offer on properties, everyone's concerned about, well, I know I got a bid over asking most of the time for one of the good homes, and how am I going to justify the appraisal? This has actually given us some confidence to go higher with that price because it's more likely that the home is going to appraise because appraisers know this data too. They are looking at the same data as we are. They have been a little more forgiving about these increases in price, even over the next highest comp in a neighborhood, right? So median list price, we've seen it. It has come down from the 312, 311. It's gone all the way up here to this 338 number where we sit here in June. And the prediction for median list price going forward is I would expect it to continue to climb. But what I would like to see is for that climb to be less steep than it is right now. The big jump, that 9% is too much growth, in my opinion. That's too high of an increase in the price. We would like to see that come down to maybe a 4% increase or a 3% increase over that same period of time. That would be more indicative of a healthy kind of stable market. All right, so that's the median list price. Now, all of that is to say that's the price of the home, but what about the homes themselves? How many of the physical homes are there? Literally number of units of homes for me to go out and potentially purchase as a buyer. Well, we can see January, February, March, April. We had a huge drop. Almost 30% of total listings that were on the market were no longer there 4 months later, just from January into that April area. Now, what has been nice, and we know that real estate is cyclical, it has seasonality to it, we have seen an uptick since April. April, May, and June, we have seen a slow increase in the amount of available listings on the market. We would expect to see an increase this time of year because it's the spring, we're heading into summer, the school listings, all those things. The problem is we haven't seen it come up enough. That is not the amount that we need in these new total active listings and new listings and things like that to come up in order to really get that pricing conversation to come back down to a healthier limit. So until we start to see these total active listings numbers come up more, we should expect to continue to see those prices increase. Now, what I would like to see is for the rest of this summer, probably through August, September, we're going to continue to see total active listings climb. Barring some change in the interest rates, I would expect that come September, October, we're going to flatline again and maybe even come back down again. So that's going to be a little tricky, is that, if you have been waiting to purchase and you've been waiting for there to be more homes, we're probably right in the middle of that season. And we probably have the rest of summer left. And then after that, I wouldn't have a whole lot of confidence going forward into the fall that that's going to reverse course. Now, there was an interesting bit of this data that I could see from the averages as we started to look through. And one of the things that I always talk to buyers about and I always hear is, the speed of the market. I'm nervous to get in because it seems like everything happens so quickly. And you're right, things have been happening very quickly. But can we point to metrics in the data that actually tells that story, as opposed to just news correspondents and realtors telling people, oh, it's a fast market, you got to go quick? Because you never know if you can really trust them. Are they telling me it's quick because they want me to make an offer? Or are they telling me it's quick because they're truly acting as a fiduciary in my best interest? You don't know. So that's why the statistics are so important, is because we can actually point and say, look, this isn't just me. This is the entire area. We can read it and we can take those inferences from it. So the four that I'm looking at here are the expired, withdrawn, and canceled, anything that was price reduced, and then days on market, right? Average and median, right? So those are kind of the 3-4 things that we're really looking at there. And from January, February, all the way through June, in every single one of those categories, we have been sliding down, meaning there are less properties that become expired or are withdrawn or canceled, right? When listings don't sell, you do one of those three things. Those are down. That's because those things are selling. When we have price reductions, that means my property's been sitting for a while. Nobody likes the price or the terms that I have. So let me drop the price and let's see if it's more favorable then. Those have been coming down because not as many sellers have to reduce their price, right? If anything, I've seen price increases. And then on the days on market, right? In a slower market, the days on market will be high because it takes more time for buyers to finally filter out to your home. But we've seen days on market come down. And again, it's because buyers are gobbling up the available inventory. So that's what we point to when we talk about this is a fast market and it is speeding up going into the summer season, right? So going forward from here for the halfway point of the year, as we wrap up this video, what should we expect realistically over the real estate market for the next 3 to 6 months? And I've been sitting thinking about this a lot, wondering and seeing this entire June, seeing where we land at the end of June, taking a look at our averages, taking a look at where everything is. And then also just my boots on the ground perspective of actively working with buyers and contracts. And I have people under contract right at this minute. And we've just put offers in yesterday, and we're going to be going out and seeing homes 2 days from now. So we're in it considerably. And what I have to say is I would expect prices to continue to climb, hopefully not at the rate that they have been. I would expect that total active listings over the next few months should continue to increase slightly, but don't be blown away by the amount of options. It will just be a nice, healthy bump up from where we are currently. And I would expect all of these speed-based metrics to continue to increase. They are still there, and we still have a lot of pent-up buyer demand, and there's still a lot of people trying to get out of their rentals and move into those that don't have a home to sell yet, right? The biggest factor that will change what happens here in the real estate market still is the interest rates. And this is what we're going to end with today. Interest rates are the thing that you should be keeping an eye on as much as possible. You don't have to love finance. You don't have to love numbers. You don't have to know anything else in the banking sector or anything about mortgages to just Google what is the interest rate if I were to buy a home today, right? And you'll get mortgage companies, you'll get all sorts of little things. I would try and find more of a Fed Treasury, one of those type of things. There are some really good mortgage websites out there that do a pretty good job of tracking these things, but what you should be looking to see is if there's going to be a break in those interest rates. Now, you may say I'm saying that to keep an eye on that so that you can be ready to purchase when you see that drop in interest rates. Guess what? So is everyone else. And we talked about a couple weeks ago when Barbara Corcoran gave the interview for Fortune magazine, when those interest rates drop, it will be a feeding frenzy. There are a lot of sellers who will say, I'm not moving until the interest rates come down because I can't justify flipping out of this payment that I have for my home, buying a smaller home or a similar size home, and my payment increasing, right? So right now, if you're a buyer without a home to sell, this is actually the right time for you to be out in the market because you can always refinance when the interest rates come back down. The people that are waiting for that to happen are, again, the people who own a home who are already in a mortgage at 2.75% or 3.1%, right? They're not willing to double their interest rate. So they're going to wait till it comes back down. As we look to see how far should they come down before I move, that's a decision that you're going to have to make. That's going to have to be a milestone move decision. I have to move. New job, job loss, new child, child leaving the house, death, birth, all those different things, right? Those are what's going to really drive your move, and interest rates are going to be a big part of it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for the first half of this year. This has been a fun project for me to kind of keep working on. I tell you what, it has made my buyers and sellers feel way more confident and comfortable about making decisions in this market when I can sit down with them and I can review these numbers with them and I can explain where we've been, where we're going. And as we sit down to craft offers, we're doing so based on data. We're doing so based on what is actually happening, not 6-month-old or 2-year-old data about, oh, it's still COVID market, everything moves quick, you got to offer everything over. Some, that's like a broken clock, it's right twice a day. Some of that may apply, but you have to understand the underlying reasons for why that applies in order to consult your clients better, in order for you as a client to make a best decision for you and your family as you go to purchase a home. So anyway, that's going to do it for us here, week 26. Thank you all so much, and let's get started with the second half of the year. Bye, everybody.